Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the Haven, which is located in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just a stone's throw from the English Channel. We hope you're all safe and well and happy as much as you can be in such a disturbed world. I've been working all day, most of the day, with Vaisheshika Prabhu and his new book, and using my voice very intensely all day. Then a meeting with Pragosh and Radharaman and Toamora. But I made a promise to you that I wouldn't miss any more days for the rest of the month. So here I am, whether my voice is up to it or not. So may Krishna empower me to do this. Hare Krishna. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, which appears as 5 verses in the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which was meant by Srila Sanatana Goswami to offer 108 obeisances to Krishna Lila in Vrindavan. And this was the 107th obeisance. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Purāṇa Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kali Dvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who were supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayen Atini Chuchatakada Hanamun Chigadachin Mam Premna Ritkanta Yokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached the 33rd chapter of the 3rd canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the activities of Kapila. We've heard the prayers of Devahuti to Kapila Dev, and now we're going to hear the last of the 3rd canto. We will definitely finish tonight, and we'll start with the 4th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam today, on this 23rd day of August 2022. Beginning with text 26. verse is talking about Devahuti. Her mind became completely engaged in the Supreme Lord, and she automatically realized the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. As a Brahman-realized soul, she was freed from the designations of the materialistic concept of life. Thus, all material pangs disappeared, and she attained transcendental bliss. Purport. The previous verse states that Devahuti was already conversant with the Absolute Truth. It may be questioned why she was meditating. The explanation is that when one theoretically discusses the Absolute Truth, he becomes situated in the impersonal concept of the Absolute Truth. Similarly, when one seriously discusses the subject matter of the form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes situated in meditation on Him. If one has complete knowledge of the Supreme Lord, then knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is automatically realized. The Absolute Truth is realized by the knower according to three different angles of vision, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Supersoul, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one is situated, therefore, in knowledge of the Supreme Person, this implies that one is already situated in the concept of the Supersoul and impersonal Brahman. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Brahma Bhutat Prasanatma. This means that unless one is freed from the material entanglement and situated in Brahman, there is no question of entering into the understanding of devotional service or engaging in Krishna consciousness. One who is engaged in devotional service to Krishna is understood to be already realized in the Brahman concept of life, because transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead includes knowledge of Brahman. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The concept of the personality of Godhead does not depend on Brahman. The Vishnu Purāṇa also confirms that one who has taken shelter of the all-auspicious Supreme Lord is already situated in the understanding of Brahman. In other words, one who is a Vaishnava is already a Brahmana. Another significant point in this verse is that one has to observe the prescribed rules and regulations. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yuktahara Viharasya, when one engages in devotional service and Krishna consciousness, he still has to eat, sleep, defend, and mate, because these are necessities of the body. But he performs such activities in a regulated way. He has to eat Krishna Prasad. He has to sleep according to regulated principles. The principle is to reduce the duration of sleep and to reduce eating, taking only what is needed to keep the body fit. In short, the goal is spiritual advancement, not sense gratification. Similarly, sex life must be reduced. Sex life is meant only for begetting Krishna-conscious children. Otherwise, there is no necessity for sex life. Nothing is prohibited, but everything is made yukta, regulated, with the higher purpose always in mind. By following all these rules and regulations of living, one becomes purified, and all misconceptions due to ignorance become nil. It is specifically mentioned here that the causes of material entanglement are completely vanquished. The Sanskrit statement, anartha nivritti, indicates that this body is unwanted. We are spirit soul, and there was never any need of this material body. But because we wanted to enjoy the material body, we have this body through the material energy, under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as we are reestablished in our original position of servitorship to the Supreme Lord, we begin to forget the necessities of the body, and at last we forget the body. Sometimes in dream, we get a particular type of body with which to work in the dream. I may dream that I am flying in the sky, or that I have gone into the forest, or some unknown place. But as soon as I am awake, I forget all these bodies. Similarly, when one is Krishna conscious, fully devoted, he forgets all his changes of body. We are always changing bodies, beginning at birth from the womb of our mother. But when we are awakened to Krishna consciousness, we forget all these bodies. The bodily necessities become secondary, for the primary necessity is engagement of the soul in real spiritual life. The activities of devotional service in full Krishna consciousness are the cause of our being situated in transcendence. The words Bhagavat Yatma Saṅśraye denote the personality of Godhead as the Supreme Soul, or the soul of everyone. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bijam Mam Sarvabhutanam. I am the seed of all entities. By taking shelter of the Supreme Being, by the process of devotional service, one becomes fully situated in the concept of the personality of Godhead. As described by Kapila, Madguna Shruti Matrena, one who was fully Krishna conscious, situated in the personality of Godhead, is immediately saturated with love of God as soon as he hears about the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Devahuti was fully instructed by her son, Kapila on how to concentrate her mind on the Vishnu form in full detail. Following the instructions of her son in the matter of devotional service, she contemplated the form of the Lord within herself with great devotional love. That is the perfection of Brahman realization, or the mystic yoga system, or devotional service. At the ultimate issue, when one is fully absorbed in thought of the Supreme Lord and meditates on Him constantly, that is the highest perfection. Bhagavad Gita confirms that one who is always absorbed in such a way is to be considered the topmost yogi. The real purpose of all processes of transcendental realization, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, is to arrive at the point of devotional service. If one endeavors simply to achieve knowledge of the Absolute Truth or the Super Soul, but has no devotional service, he labors without gaining the real result. This is compared to beating the husks of wheat after the grains have already been removed. Unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate goal, it is valueless simply to speculate or to perform mystic yoga practice. In this Ashtanga Yoga system, the seventh stage of perfection is dhyana. This dhyana is the third stage in devotional service. There are 9 stages of devotional service. The first is hearing, and then comes chanting, and then contemplating. By executing devotional service, therefore, one automatically becomes an expert jnani and an expert yogi. In other words, jnana and yoga are different preliminary stages of devotional service. Devahuti was expert in accepting the real substance. She contemplated the form of Vishnu in detail as advised by her smiling son, Kapila Dev. At the same time, she was thinking of Kapila Dev, who was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore she completely perfected her austerities, penances, and transcendental realization. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Text 27. Situated in eternal trance and freed from illusion, impelled by the modes of material nature, she forgot her material body, just as one forgets his different bodies in a dream. Purport. A great Vaishnava said that he who has no remembrance of his body is not bound to material existence. As long as we are conscious of our bodily existence, it is to be understood that we are living conditionally under the three modes of material nature. When one forgets his bodily existence, his conditional material life is over. This forgetfulness is actually possible when we engage our senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In the conditional state, one engages his senses as a member of a family or as a member of a society or country. But when one forgets all such membership in material circumstances and realizes that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, that is actual forgetfulness of material existence. This forgetfulness actually occurs when one renders service unto the Lord. A devotee no longer works with the body for sense gratification, with family, society, country, humanity, and so on. He simply works for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That is perfect Krishna consciousness. A devotee always merges in transcendental happiness, and therefore he has no experience of material distresses. This transcendental happiness is called eternal bliss. According to the opinion of devotees, constant remembrance of the Supreme Lord is called samadhi, or trance. If one is constantly in trance, there is no possibility of his being attacked or even touched by the modes of material nature. As soon as one is freed from the contamination of the three material modes, he no longer has to take birth to transmigrate from one body to another in this material world. Text 28. Her body was being taken care of by the spiritual damsels created by her husband, Kardama. And since she had no mental anxiety at the time, her body did not become thin. She appeared just like a fire surrounded by smoke. Purport. Because she was always in trance, in transcendental bliss, the thought of the personality of Godhead was always carefully fixed in her mind. She did not become thin, for she was taken care of by the celestial maidservants created by her husband. It is said, according to the Ayurvedic medical science, that if one is free from anxieties, he generally becomes fat. Devahuti, being situated in Krishna consciousness, had no mental anxieties, and therefore her body did not become thin. It is customary in the renounced order of life that one should not take any service from a servant or maid, except for Abhayadas Brahmachari. But Devahuti was being served by the celestial maidservants. This may appear to be against the spiritual concept of life, but Just as fire is still beautiful even when surrounded by smoke, she looked completely pure, although it seemed that she was living in a luxurious way. Text 29. Because she was always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she was not aware that her hair was sometimes loosened or her garments were disarrayed. Purport. In this verse, the word Daiva Guptam, protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very significant. Once one surrenders under the service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord takes charge of the maintenance of the devotee's body, and there is no need of anxiety for its protection. It is said in the second chapter, second canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that a fully surrendered soul has no anxiety about the maintenance of his body. The Supreme Lord takes care of the maintenance in innumerable species of bodies. Therefore, one who fully engages in his service will not go unprotected by the Supreme Lord. Devahuti was naturally unmindful of the protection of her body, which was being taken care of by the Supreme Person. Text 30. My dear Vidura, by following the principles instructed by Kapila, Devahuti soon became liberated from material bondage, and she achieved the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Supersoul without difficulty. Purport. 3 words have been used in this connection to describe the achievement of Devahuti: Atmanam, Brahmanirvanam, and Bhagavantam. These refer to the gradual process of discovery of the Absolute Truth, mentioned herein as the Bhagavantam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead resides in various Vaikuntha planets. Nirvana means to extinguish the pangs of material existence. When one is able to enter into the spiritual kingdom or into spiritual realization, one is automatically freed from material pangs. That is called Brahma Nirvana. According to Vedic scripture, Nirvana means cessation of the materialistic way of life. Atmanam means realization of the Supersoul within the heart. Ultimately, the highest perfection is realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is to be understood that Devahuti entered the planet which is called Kapila Vaikuntha. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, predominated by the expansions of Vishnu. All the Vaikuntha planets are known by a particular name of Vishnu. As we understand from Brahma Samhita, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. Ananta means innumerable. The Lord has innumerable expansions of his transcendental form, and according to the different positions of the symbolical representations in his 4 hands, he is known as Narayana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, and so on. There is also a Vaikuntha planet known as Kapila Vaikuntha, to which Devahuti was promoted to meet Kapila and reside there eternally, enjoying the company of her transcendental son. Text 31. The place where Devahuti achieved her perfection, my dear Vidura, is understood to be a most sacred spot. It is known all over the 3 worlds as Siddhapada. Text 32. Dear Vidura, the material elements of her body have melted into water and are now a flowing river, which is the most sacred of all rivers. Anyone who bathes in that river also attains perfection, and therefore all persons who desire perfection go bathe there. My dear Vidura, the great sage Kapila, the personality of Godhead, left his father's hermitage with the permission of his mother and went towards the northeast. Text 34. While he was passing in the northern direction, all the celestial denizens known as Charanas and Gandharvas, as well as the Munis and the damsels of the heavenly planets, prayed and offered him all respects. The ocean offered him oblations and a place of residence. Purport. It is understood that Kapila Muni first went towards the Himalayas and traced the course of the river Ganges, and he again came to the delta of the Ganges at the sea now known as the Bay of Bengal. The ocean gave him residence at a place still known as Ganga Sagara, where the river Ganges meets the sea. That place is called Ganga Sagara Tirtha, and even today people gather there to offer respects to Kapila Dev, the original author of the Sankhya system of philosophy. Unfortunately, this Sankhya system has been misrepresented by an impostor who is also named Kapila, but that other system of philosophy does not tally with anything described in the Sankhya of Kapila in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Text 35. Even now, Kapila Muni is staying there in trance for the deliverance of the conditioned souls in the three worlds, and all the acharyas, or great teachers of the system of Sankhya philosophy, are worshipping him. Text 36. My dear son, since you have inquired from me, I have answered. O sinless one, the descriptions of Kapila Dev and his mother and their activities are the purest of all pure discourses. 37. The description of the dealings of Kapila Dev and his mother is very confidential, and anyone who hears or reads this narration becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was carried by Garuda, and he therefore enters into the abode of the Supreme Lord to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Purport. The narration of Kapila Dev and his mother, Devahuti, is so perfect and transcendental that even if one only hears or reads this description, he achieves the highest perfectional goal of life, for he engages in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no doubt that Devahuti, who had the Supreme Lord as her son, and who followed the instructions of Kapila Dev so nicely, attained the highest perfection of human life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the third canto, 33rd chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Activities of Kapila Dev. End of the third canto. All glories to the third canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, particularly all glories to the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev and Mother Devahuti, who, being his mother, was able to extract from him these teachings by her wonderful questions. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we reached 7:55, and now we have to decide, do we keep going? Or do we start the fourth canto tomorrow? I think it's better to start it tomorrow. What do you think? Okay, we'll stop here. And it's very interesting. I'll make one comment before I turn it over to the reflections. And that is, notice that the whole last chapter, which is called The Activities of Kapila Dev, had everything to do with the Vibhuti. Practically what he did wasn't even mentioned, except for the very end, last 2-3 verses. This means that this is what Kapila Dev did. Enlightened Mother Devi Huda completely, and then protected her from that time on. The most dutiful son, the supreme son. All right. So we'll start tomorrow with the fourth canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Pretty ecstatic, exciting how we're going through the Bhagavatam. When did we start? December. End or beginning? Can't remember. Me neither. January, February, March, April. Well, it's almost eight months to go through the first 4 cantos. First 3 cantos, sorry. It's going to take us a while to get to the end of the Bhagavatam, which is really good. Okay, let's hear the reflections from the devotees.
First this evening is Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati. Nice to hear that you're first out of the blocks today.
She says, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai, Haribo.
Thank you for your dedication to give us the essence of life, no matter what.
Yes, correct. Anyway, I got pretty enlivened by that last comment, that last verse. It said anyone who just recites this becomes eligible to go back to Godhead by the mercy of the Vaishnavas.
And Sudevi Dasi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Sudevi Dasi, Hare Krishna to you too.
And from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Yes, Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and all assembled sages, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Jai Ho, Maharaj, thank you.
Jai Ho.
And from Bhakti Noel.
Yes, Bhakti Noel.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai.
I appreciated hearing today that understanding devotional service and engaging in Krishna consciousness is the only way to realize the absolute truth. Enjoying this material body can be the trap that affects our spiritual advancement. It is stated so clearly by Srila Prabhupada, but these conditioned modes are everywhere. May I strive for total absorption by Krishna's mercy. These readings are the gift each day that keeps me focused. Thank you for your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for that deep appreciation.
And from Gauranga Gopal.
Yes, Gauranga Gopal.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for reading and leading us through the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 4th canto already. Some very amazing pastimes in there. Some of my favorite ones, including the Daksha Shiva one and Dhruva Maharaj story.
Mm. Yes, it's a big canto also. It's at least as large, or maybe a little larger than 3rd canto.
And he has a question as well.
Yes, please.
Do we know what is Devahuti's position in the planet of Lord Kapila in Vaikuntha?
It's his mother. She's eternally his mother.
He says also, from my limited understanding, I thought I heard that parental relationships didn't exist in Vaikuntha. But
it's different. It's different in the sense that every single devotee of Krishna, the basic rasa is servitude, dasya ras. So in Vaikuntha, the relationships don't go farther than dasya ras, except for Lakshmi. She's in conjugal mood, but it's also very different than in Dwarka or in Goloka, Vrindavan. It's more formal and more based on awe and reverence and opulence.
And from Bhaktirupa?
Yes, Bhaktirupa.
Thanks for reading, Maharaj. A nice moment when Kapila Dev leaves and receives the respect and prayers from the demigods.
Yes.
And from Subbarao?
Subbarao, Haribo.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for delivering the rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. Thank you for your reading so we could hear as well.
Well, we heard how hearing and chanting results in contemplating. So may it take us there. Hare Krishna.
This is from Sarat Sarvagya Das.
Sarat Sarvagya Das. Sarat Sarvagya Das. Yes.
He says, those who don't have time to read, please hear from Maharaj.
Hey, thanks for the plug. And also tell your friends to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Daily Readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Because we want to push that over the 1,000. We've got 950 or a little bit more. And we need to push it over 1,000. And then we'll be able to, if the time comes, and if we think it's best, then we can have our daily readings on YouTube rather than on Facebook. Because there's so many problems with Facebook. I mean, there's problems with YouTube also, but not so many. But still more people go onto Facebook, so I'm still of two minds whether to go there or not. But anyway, please get your friends, and if you haven't already subscribed, please go to the site, Daily Readings of Srila Prabhupada's books on the YouTube channel, and please click on subscribe. Thank you. This has been a public service announcement from the Haven. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. I thought you had something going on here. Radharaman is going to bless us with some reflections by his what's the word? Via median, Abhaya Das Brahmachari.
And I was just an appreciation, Maharaj, of actually we started in December, the middle of December, with the first canto, and it's just amazing that we made it to the Nityam Bhagavata Seva, made it all the way to the fourth canto.
Yeah.
In a reasonably quick time.
Yeah, well, regulation. This is the name of the game in this material world. If we can regulate our senses and do something consistently every day, we get so much benefit. And the benefit is we'll be able to explain and then contemplate the pastimes of the Lord. And that's the goal of life. That takes us to Goloka Vrindavan, or the Vaikuntha planets at least.
Since 2014, I mean the daily recordings have been since 2018, but since 2014 when you started, I think it was in Cardiff, in Prema Rasa's
It was in Cardiff, in Prema Rasa's place, that's right.
They started doing that hours reading every day, or 40 pages.
41 pages a day.
I think we've read Bhāgavatam like 4 times through, CC a few times through.
No, this is the second time through the Bhagavatam. In the readings, in the daily readings.
Mm.
This is the second time through. We have done the Bhagavad Gita twice, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, cover to cover, all the way through, and Krishna book, all the way through, and the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, all the way through, both parts.
Mm.
So there's a legacy, there's an offering for posterity there, which is hopefully will help a lot of souls. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you.
There's a question from Subbarao.
Subbarao has a question.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. In ISKCON or Gaudiya Sampradaya, why don't we celebrate Kapila Dev's appearance day, even though we celebrate many other avatars' appearances, like Vamanadev, Varahadev, and so on?
Well, generally, in our line of disciplic succession, our previous acharyas, and Srila Prabhupada also, the goal of they're teaching us the goal to go back to Goloka Vrindavan. And Kapila Dev takes us to Vaikuntha. So therefore we don't so much celebrate the appearance and disappearance of Kapila Dev for that reason. Because his teachings take us to Vaikuntha. And our goal through Lord Chaitanya and through his followers is to go to Goloka Vrindavan and associate with Krishna, either in Dwarka, in Mathura, or Vrindavan. That's the Guru Parampara that we are in. That's our line.
From Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for reading. Today was another really hot day. My schedule was irregular and my mind was all over the place once again. Embarrassing. But you again saved the day by appearing in front of my eyes and by injecting transcendental knowledge into my ears. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Well, anyway, everything you're doing is related to devotional service. As Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 57, in the purport, just think before you do your duty, whether it be your professional duty or whatever other duties you have, that Krishna has appointed me to do this duty. And therefore that would help you to think of Krishna while you're doing your duty, or at least from time to time while you're doing your duties. And then your mind won't go so much all over the place, although you have to when you're doing your duty. Just like Arjuna, when he was doing his duty, he was right next to Krishna on the chariot, but he had to remember all his mantras, he had to be in the right place at the right time to win a heavy battle. So let us take heart and think of Krishna and think of that whatever service we have has been appointed by Krishna, given to us by Krishna, and therefore do it as nicely as we can. And that way we become Krishna conscious, even doing our duties, regular duties in life. Hare Krishna.
Subbarao says, thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Subbarao.
And from Bhakti-Rupa?
Yes, Bhakti-Rupa.
Tonight I heard that the primary necessity is engagement of the soul in real spiritual life, and that bodily necessities are secondary. I wondered about the statement that one who has no remembrance of his body is not bound to material existence, and that as long as we are conscious of our body, we are living conditionally. Is it the case that a pure devotee is at least a little bit bound as long as they are aware of their body?
No. No, not at all. A pure devotee is not bound, even if he's aware of his body. Even if he gets old and gets sick, he's not bound by the material modes of nature. Therefore, at the end of life, he easily remembers Krishna and goes back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. We have eyewitness. I was an eyewitness to this when Prabhupada was translating in the last few days. Not the last few days, but within the last month, he would translate, and Pradyumna would help him, and Jayadvaita Maharaj would edit, and he even had a conversation while he was starting, just when he started again. On 14th, you can read about it or hear it for yourselves in October 14th, 1977, where Srila Prabhupada was talking about doing it, and he started to do something with Pradyumna, and then he said, but this must be very carefully edited. What does the editor think? And Jayadvaita Maharaj, immediately you'll hear his voice saying, this is a very good idea, Srila Prabhupada, and we can do it. And then he gave a suggestion to Pradyumna that he should go ahead translating the verses to make it easier for us, and Prabhupada said yes. And then they started. So it is very clear that Jayadvaita Maharaj was Prabhupada's editor right to the end. Anybody who thinks or speaks that he's not the editor is not aware of the actual history. Hare Krishna. Neither of Prabhupada's personal desire and faith in Jayadvaita Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
And from Rati Manjari?
Yes, Rati Manjari.
She says, thank you, my dear Guru Maharaj. Your patience with me is extraordinary.
Well, if you were sitting in the haven all the time, it would be easy for you too. Hare Krishna.
And from Subbarao?
Yes, Subbarao.
Quoting Bhagavad Gita 1857, Cetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matpara buddhi yogam upashritya machchita satatam bhava. And all activities just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me.
Yes. And in that purport you will hear Prabhupada say in quotes, I have been appointed this duty by Krishna. And that is perfect Krishna consciousness. But then he says, but don't do something whimsically and then offer it to Krishna. Do it for Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. Whatever that duty is. But you can't do anything. You can't be a butcher and offer that to Krishna. But most, normal ways of earning a livelihood, you can do this. Hare Krishna. If you're wife to a husband, you can do it. If you're husband to a wife, you can do it. Whatever you're doing for a livelihood, if you're grihasta, you can do it. From any position, you can do it. There's no impediments in devotional service. Ahaikuti apatriyata yayatma suprasidati. And when that service becomes uninterrupted and unmotivated, then the self becomes completely satisfied. And that's what happened just now to Devahuti. Hare Krishna. We thank all of you very much for being so regulated and taking this journey with us through the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. And your reflections are becoming more mature and more relishable. And everyone who watches in, or even those who have to watch afterwards, from the YouTube, they are noticing. Everyone is noticing. Samabheda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. The ever expanding pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, described by His pure devotees. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hari Bol.